Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this session. MFile's Quick Tips. Version history is what we'll be talking about today. What will we cover? Great question. How to create a version, or actually I should back up. How versions are created in MFiles. What is the trigger for that? And then we're going to talk about different ways to see the history. Then we're going to preview history. Now there's a couple different ways to preview because you're looking at the metadata card as well as the document. So I'll show you both of those methods. Now, there's a lot of changes that are happening at the document level. You can actually do something called a compare, where you can compare multiple versions inside of Microsoft Word and see what was changed. If you want to go back to a previous version, we can do that by doing a rollback, and I'll show you how that is done. Let's get started. Okay, what triggers a version in MFiles? Great question. As you take a look at this slide, you can see any changes made to the document itself creates a new version. If you make a change to the metadata card, that also creates another version. If your document is part of a workflow and you advance it, that creates another version in MFiles. Basically, what it boils down to, any changes to the document inside of MFiles creates another version. As you take a look at the screen caps I have on the right here, so obviously the document does tell you what version it is on. And you can see that with my order. You can see document, then it has an ID number in version 1. When a change is made, you can see the screen cap below that now is showing version 2. Now, a lot of people would ask, who made the change? The bottom screen capture tells you who modified the document last, the date and time, and the individual. So a lot of good information there right on that metadata card. Let's actually get into MFiles and take a look at what we're talking about. So you should be seeing my screen now. I'm inside of MFiles. And as we take a look at this, you can see I have a document here, James Kirk. Okay, so let's talk about creating a version. So I'm going to select James Kirk. There we go. Now this happens to be a Word document. So I'm going to double click and I'm going to check it out to make an edit to the document. So as we take a look at this, I am going to update his home phone number. I'm going to make a change there. And we're going to do this as a 6666. There we go. So I'm going to go up to my ribbon and select MFiles. Check in. I will be prompted to save it. When I do so, when we go close out of this, go back into MFiles, you can see that it created another version of that document. Now we're on version number 14. What's another way to create a version? Okay, I can go here and modify the metadata card. So let's say this phone number, oh, it changed and there's a 6 at the end. Down at the very bottom, there's a save icon. I click on save. Notice the version number will go up to now version number 15. The third and final way of making a change is if it is involved in a workflow. And this document is, and you can see that down below. It's review application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the workflow. I'm going to advance it to schedule an interview. And I'm going to just put a quick comment here. Okay, just a quick comment, click OK. That now, when I click save, is going to create version number 16. So there, I just stepped through real quickly, creating those creating versions 3 different ways inside of mFiles. Editing the Word document and saving it back into mFiles, making a change on the metadata card, and the third and final one, because it was involved in a workflow, I advanced it in the workflow, which created another version. Now, let's take a look at the history. How can we see the history of that document? The first method is if the document is selected, which mine is, I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to select history from the list. This brings up the history of the document. Now, I've created a lot of different versions of this document just to show we've got all of it here. So if you take a look at the numbers here, we're going from version 1 all the way up to version number 16. Now, here's a little caveat, and I didn't mention this earlier. mFiles will always show you the current version of the document. Let me repeat that. mFiles will always show you the current version of the document. So in this case, the current version of James T. Kirk is version number 16, and that's what mFiles is showing us. Okay, so this is one way to see history. Let me close out of this. Another way that happened to be added a few releases ago in mFiles is right on the metadata card. And when you move your icon over the little clock, a tooltip comes up saying show history. When I click on this, this brings up that same window that we saw just a moment ago. Just a different way to get to it. Now let's talk about previewing history. Obviously, you can see with the metadata card, if I go back a couple versions here, we're going to see that the metadata card changed where I made a change to that phone number right there. And if we go back, notice the last 4 digits, 5555. If I go to the current version, there's a 6 at the end. Okay, that's one way to preview the changes to the metadata card. What if I actually made changes to the document? Good question. Over here to the far right, I have a tab for preview. Now, if you recall, that was one of those first changes I made. So we'll go down to here. You can see that the home phone number is 6666 right there. If I go back a couple versions, you're going to see it's now 4444. So pretty cool. So I haven't made a change to anything. I'm just looking at past versions of the document. I can preview the metadata card. I can also preview the document. Now, a lot of times what happens is these are pretty simple changes that I'm pointing out. What if somebody made some very extensive changes to the document? And it's not real easy to see when you're trying to find it real quickly. With the Word feature here and mFiles, there's a compare feature that is available. So when I double click here, I'm going to check out the document. This is going to open up Microsoft Word with my document being checked out. Now, if I want to do a compare, I go up to my ribbon, mFiles, There's my compare icon. Now, this is a feature that does need to be enabled, but it is included with your mFiles subscription. If I click here, I have a choice here, compare with another version. When I do that, it opens up again that history that we saw just a moment ago in mFiles, and I can select the version. Now I'm going to jump down here to version 2. I'm going to make that selection, one click. I'm going to click OK. Now what mFiles is going to do is upload those documents to the cloud and compare them. Cool. Now as we take a look at this, you can see everything is highlighted with colors. Now the key point here is the strike through was removed, the underline was added. Your colors can be a little bit different depending on your settings in Microsoft Word. Now, if you had somebody making one change and then another individual making a change to the document, you can go through those different changes as well as tracking changes by person. Pretty slick. This does also work for PDFs. I'm going to click close. So we'll make an assumption here that I want to go back to a previous version. I'm going to check in my document, close Microsoft Word. Now I'm going to do something called a rollback. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to right click, select history. I can also do this on the metadata card. And if I want to roll back, we'll say I want to roll back to version number 13. So I'm going to make that selection. And down here at the very bottom, there's a button that says rollback. When I make that selection, it's going to then create another version. So it will actually be creating version number 17 in case I want to go back to version number 16. I'm going to say yes. It created a new version, version number 17, which happens to be version number 13. I'm going to click close. Again, remember mFiles is always showing you the current version of the document. A follow-up question with that is a lot of people would want to know, did a rollback happen? And who did it? And what version? Up here in the metadata card, you can see the number 3. When I click on this, these are the comments added to the document. We take a look here, we can see today's date, Marco Demo, that's me, made rollback to version number 13. Those comments happened automatically when you do a rollback. So it's flagged that a rollback happened. I go back here to the price tag and click again to get back to my regular metadata card. What I want to do at this point is go back to my PowerPoint real quick, and I want to open it up for any questions. Please use the chat window and ask your question in the chat window. Now, I did see a couple questions come in here. Let me take the first one. So the first question is, can I stop mFiles from making a version? Great question. And I'm sorry to say the answer for that one is no. mFiles will be doing that automatically, always creating versions when you are making a change to the document, the metadata card, or advancing it in a workflow. The follow-up question for this is, what if it creates a version that I don't want? So I want to be able to delete a version. Is that possible? And the answer here is yes. And let me show you how that works. I'm going to go to another system here. Now, the thing that you need to know real quickly before I demonstrate this is I am the system administrator for mFiles. I log into the mFiles client, which I am right now. and I'm actually on that server, and we can see James Kirk. So the key is admin rights inside of mfiles. So I'm going to select my document. I'm going to right click on it. This brings up the history choice. Now I can see all those different versions. Make that a little bit bigger. Go a little bit farther. Okay. So we got 17 through 1. We're just missing a couple versions at the bottom in our view. So to delete a version, what you need to do is select the version, one click. Now when you right click on that, you have the capability of destroy this version. Now I do want to caution you here, you are the system administrator. So when you make that selection to destroy it, it is completely gone. Now let me make that selection. I'm reminded this is going to be a permanent removal. I say yes. Now, mfiles does something very unique here in letting everybody else know that a version has been removed. If you take a look at my number scheme, I'm going from 13 to 11. mfiles did not reorder the numbers. It purposely just skipped 12, which was the version that was permanently deleted. So mfiles allows you to remove a version. It also flags it in a way by keeping that number removed and not renumbering them. Let me close out of this. And we'll jump back into our PowerPoint here. Okay, I want to see if there's any more questions that hit our board. At this point, I am not seeing any more questions. If you do have a question that comes up later that you think about it, please feel free to email us at software@marconet.com, and we'll make sure to take care of that question. A couple quick reminders here. Our next quick tip is going to be happening February 20th at 10 a.m. again and going until 10:30, pending on questions. Please complete the survey at the end of this webinar. And also, if you would like to sign up for some of those future webinars, take your phone out and scan the QR code here, and that will take you to the webinar page at Marco, and you'll be able to sign up from there. What I'd like to do at this point is I'd like to thank you for attending today's session. And again, if you do have any other questions, please feel free to send us an email at software@marconet.com. Thank you for attending today's session. Have a great day.